Hi guys, this is Rick McQuerry with the Bustin' Free Bus. Today we're going to put new air springs on. We got our air springs in. The old ones were dry rotted. Getting ready to make a long trip up to Maine, about 3,000 mile round trip. Don't want to have air spring trouble. So anyway, if you have air suspension on your bus, you may want to watch this. This is the old air spring. I already did one side. This is the new air spring. When they come out, they look much bigger. I've been assured by the people at Stengel Brothers that they will fit. So first thing, you don't need this bracket on here. This bracket will not fit on mine. Take that off of there. Let me show you my fancy dancy camera holder right there. But anyway, that's how we're holding the camera. I'm just going to shine it over there at what I'm doing. Hope I don't get in the way too much. But the air spring under there. I've already got my tools because I did the other side. I loosened some of these bolts. Some of them were quite tight. Some of them weren't. But anyway, the very first thing you do is take the air line off up here. Make sure, I'm sorry, let me back up just a minute. The very first thing I did is started up the bus, aired up the old air springs, and I put a piece of metal, piece of square tubing, 2 1/4 inches long, between the bus frame and the axle where it comes down. When your air springs are deflated, the frame of the bus has a block that comes down and touches the axle to keep it from coming down too far, damaging your shocks. So I put a piece of metal in there so the bus could not come down very far. Actually, it was the longest piece of metal that would go up there. So that's up there. I'll show you that in a minute. Then I deflated the air. I deflated the air in the tanks, and I waited for the air to be out of the bags. Do not take this air line off here if your bags are under pressure. When it's under pressure, it will not deflate like that. It will not push in. It'll be very rigid and hard. So then I took the air. First thing I got to do is take this air line off up here. I already loosened it. Right there it is. That's the air line. Get it out of the way. Underneath that, there is on mine, there's a 1 1/16 inch nut. It's a 3/4 inch nut, the 1 1/16 inch wrench. But on the new ones, they don't have threads there, so we're not going to be putting that nut back on there. So we have that. We're going to, now we're going to take the airbag loose at the top. This is an extra step you don't actually have to do, but I'm taking that bracket off just to see it. So, have to get the wrench on it better. Did not have it held good enough when I put the impact to it. It's 1 3/4 inch bolt. Use a 16 nut at the top of it. We'll have to put this back on. Like I say, the same bracket is going to be reused. A lot of room to work under these buses. Let me get my wrench back, my nut back anyway. Save the nut. Then, the bottom of mine is a metric. It takes an 18 millimeter. It's a metric nut. And that's kind of a telltale. If it has a metric nut, they tell me that means it's most likely a 1 R12-689 airbag. Doesn't have to be, but that's an indicator if it's a metric nut on the bottom. Most of them are a 1/2 inch nut on the bottom. 1/2 inch bolts, I mean. Anyway, take the old one out. They come out fairly easy where I have the bus 2 1/4 inches higher than it should be. So there's that. Here's the bracket that I'm going to reuse. I don't know if you can see that right there. I'm right in your way. That bracket is going to be reused on a new airbag. So I have to get it off of there. Working under a bus, you know, and of course most of us don't have a shop. We're working in the sand or in the grass. take that off of there. And it goes right over here on the new airbag. That's the old one. We're going to get rid of it. The new one is right here. Put the nut on there. Self-locking nut. Tighten it up a little bit. I don't tighten it up all the way because it has to still be able to move a little bit. Okay, just like that. Now, put this new airbag back in the spot. It was actually pretty simple, I hope, for people to understand. This one here, put it in the right place. Put the bottom bolt in first, is the easiest, because it's a little longer than the top bolts. And then this bag will deflate. We just use brute force and ignorance to get it to deflate enough to go in there. And then this bracket has to be turned the right way. Put the air, where the air goes in through that. We have to put our nut in to hold the bracket to the frame. Put the bolt in first, of course. Nut, start it by hand. That one right there on my bus, because it was a little rusty, I actually had to break loose with a 30-inch breaker bar in my foot. It was not going to come loose easily. But, you know, if you're working on equipment, that's just life in the big city, as they say. 15/16 is the wrench size for this. And we'll tighten it up a little bit, and then we'll torque it with that big bar. But I want to get it started because the big bar doesn't ratchet. Helps if I go through this hole right here. Found it down on the other side. Of course, we have dogs. Okay, there's that. It's tight, but it's not tight enough. I will have to torque it now with this big bar because I don't want to have that coming off there, obviously. What you're doing here, this is a structural part of your bus, so you're going to have to make sure that everything you do goes back on good and tight. Well, the little impact did it a little better than I thought it would. So they're good. Now, that 3/4 inch, tighten it up. There's a 1/2 inch nut on the top there that you use a 3/4 inch wrench for. Is what holds that bracket on. You saw me put it on there with the impact. Well, now it has to be tightened up. Okay. Torque spec on that is German. It's good and tight. Anyway, now we have the nut that goes on the bottom of it, which, of course, rolled away. No, here it is. Goes right here. That uses the 18mm wrench. Spin that on. Okay, that's good too. Then we attach the airline that we took off at the first step. Now it becomes the last step. It goes right in that little nubbin that sticks up through that other hole. That also uses a 3/4 inch open end wrench to tighten that up when you're done. So they had, for some reason they had metrics. They had some metrics and they had some English fasteners on here, but that also helped me identify which airbag I had. So you don't tighten up these air fittings very tight. They're brass, they will break. They're brass and you're putting them over onto metal, onto steel. So there we go. Okay, hope that was self-explanatory enough. One thing I didn't show you before is the little Shock's in terrible shape, but there is a little piece of square tubing that I put between that U-bolt and the frame to keep the air, to give me some room to get the airbags out, the old airbags out. Now when I air the bus up, I'll take them out, of course. That's what I'm getting ready to do, is start the bus, bring it up to pressure. New airbags are on. This job took about an hour altogether, including shooting videos of both sides. Cost was about $400. I think it was $176 per airbag. And the peace of mind of getting rid of these 15-year-old airbags. Now you can kind of see, this is why I replaced them. Can you see? Let me see if I can get it to focus better. If you see that dry rot right there, that's what I was worried about. I was worried about going down the road. If the airbag pops, it won't wreck your vehicle necessarily. It's going to make one side of it come down a lot further, and it's going to scare you. But what will happen is your air will be escaping faster than your air compressor can make up. So my bus has air brakes, therefore I wouldn't be able to go anywhere. My brakes would actually lock up. So I would be broke down. But now I have new airbags. Also have new tires. Just got those put on. We blew a tire going around Atlanta, so got 4 tires on there. So I think we're in pretty good shape for a trip. Again, this is Rick McQuerry from the Bustin' Free Bus, reminding you, stop dreaming of a better life and go build it.